Welcome, Blazers. This is UAB's Town Hall for students and family members. We're going to hear from our leadership first. We'll have some area updates from our president and provost, our vice president for enrollment. We're going to hear from Dr. Faircloth, the director of UAB Student Health Services, and you'll hear from your student leaders, Tyler Wong and John Benjamin, both with undergraduate student government and the graduate student government. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Watts. Dr. Watts.
Thank you very much, and let me add my welcome. We want to keep you as informed as possible as we prepare to come back together on campus for the fall semester. Classes begin August 24th. We want you to know that we have a very comprehensive plan. Safety and health is our top priority, and our plan has been informed by the wonderful expertise that we have in our world-class School of Medicine, School of Public Health, Health Professions, Health Informatics, Information Technology, and on. It's been a great experience for UAB to fight this pandemic, and we are fully in force. Our healthcare system has never been busier, but we're providing great care to those in need in our community. Our research enterprise has gradually returned, and the various methodologies we're going to use for the safe return of our educational programs have been tested already. And all of our employees who return to campus, and many of our students, professional students, graduate students, and others. As you know, we're going to test all of our students prior to coming back to campus for COVID to make sure that we understand the status of the virus and our students who are returning and who are joining us for the first time. And we're going to have a very comprehensive safety plan and safety measures. We know that wearing face masks and physically distancing of 6 feet or more are critical for reducing the spread of the virus. We have had sentinel testing in our employees, and some students have had a very low rate of positivity, less than 0.5%. And we've tested in the return to campus for our various universities in Alabama, which UAB is providing the testing. Over 16,000 has been a very low incidence, 0.89% of those students have been positive. So we know that these measures will help us mitigate the risk. Nothing can totally eliminate the risk, but we have in place safety measures which will greatly mitigate the risk. And we have developed digital apps to help us monitor the health of our students and employees on a daily basis, and to help us know where, if there is an outbreak, we can contain it and take care of it quickly. We would not be coming back to campus if we did not feel that it's safe to do so, and we have a high level of confidence. One thing that's going to be very important, and that is our human behavior. We have a zero tolerance for non-compliance with wearing face masks, with physically distancing, and following all the safety measures for our students and our employees, because each of us has to take these steps to protect one another. They protect us, but importantly, they protect our community. We want the UAB community to be as healthy as possible. And we've got a lot of great people working very hard. We've received your questions. We understand them. You'll hear introductory comments, which will address a lot of them. And then we're going to have an open question and answer period where we will address all the questions we can get to within our 1 hour period. Those that we may not address, we will answer and follow up with posting on our website. So these town halls have been very effective and very helpful for good, open, transparent communication. And we're here to help you have a great experience this fall on our campus at UAB. With that, I'm going to turn the podium over to Dr. Pam Benoit, our Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs and Provost. Pam?
Thank you. Good evening, and we're so glad that you came. It's going to be so important to understand how classes will work during the fall semester, and we have a lot of experts on the call today to try to explain a variety of different ways in which we will be adapting what we do in order to make sure that we not only deliver a great education and you have wonderful classes, but that it's also being done in a very healthy and safe way. So I want to start by talking a little bit about the masks. President Watts said earlier that masks will be required on campus, and we will be providing as a welcome back gift 2 cloth face masks for every student. If you are in the residence halls, you'll pick those up when you move in. If you're off campus, you will pick those up Friday, August 21st from 9 to noon, or Saturday, August 22nd, and lot 4 of the parking lot at 5th and 10th. Also, if you don't get it then, you can get it in the first week at University Hall, the bookstore, or Lister Hill. And once again, we're not requiring you to wear these particular face masks, although they're UAB branded masks and pretty cute. But you can wear other face masks as well, but they're certainly going to be required for you to wear them. Secondly, I want to talk a little bit about what classes will look like in the fall, and then I'm going to hand off to some people who will talk about some of the details around that. We worked really hard to think about different ways in which we might offer the classes, and there are 4 different ways in which you might be taking a class. The first way is an in-person class, thank you, a face-to-face class. And this is a nice graph that shows the difference between the types of classes that will be offered. A face-to-face class is what you're used to. This is the normal way in which we would offer classes if we weren't in a pandemic. The second is hybrid learning. And in hybrid learning, it's a combination of face-to-face as well as remote learning. Remote learning is done entirely at distance, but tends to focus more on synchronous at the same time kind of instruction. And then we have some programs and courses that we've been offering for quite a while that are fully online courses, and these are noted in the schedule as Q courses. And so we've really thought carefully about how we decided which class would be which type. And there are a couple of things that went into that. One is the pedagogy of the class, how the class needs to be taught for particular students. So if you think about it, a course that's a performance course or a course that has a lab course needs at least some in-person component. So that class is likely to be entirely face-to-face, or it might be hybrid. Courses that are more lecture courses might easily be transferred into remote kinds of courses. It depends on the nature of the course that was being offered. We prioritize courses for face-to-face or hybrid instruction that are ones that typically are taken by freshmen or sophomores. There are courses that have labs or have performance elements or some other element that really needs to be done in person. Honors courses have been prioritized. And then we have what we've called mismatches. And that's when we've measured all of the classrooms to determine exactly how many students can be safely in a class. And if we can't fit it into the class by offering it in a hybrid way, then we've decided that those courses probably need to go remote if we can't find an alternative location. So there are 4 possibilities that you'll see on the schedule. And now Bradley Barnes, the Vice Provost for Enrollment Management, is going to tell you a little bit about what you can see on your schedules.
Thank you, Dr. Benoit. And now we'll take a look at the sample fall 2020 schedule for students. By now, you all have your schedules, and by now, many of you may have questions about your schedules. So hopefully this will clear some things up. And if not, feel free to post comments and questions in the chat box below. On a side note, you may notice in the previous slide that was up, you saw the university's learning management system, Canvas, and also Zoom. Well, e-learning and professional studies has some training modules, and I'll post the links in the chat box below in just a few minutes. But as you look at this schedule, you'll see this divided into course, instructor name, mode, days, and in the far right, you see attendance day. And if we look at row 1, we see that General Chemistry 2 has an instructor name listed below, and it is hyperlinked to that instructor's email. So you just click on that link, and you can email your instructor any questions you may have. The mode is face-to-face. So you'll see next to that meeting days, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And for face-to-face classes, attendance days are the same as the meeting days. So a student will go to class on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, each day that it's offered. Now, the real difference comes in when you look at a hybrid class. So if you can go down to the 5th row, Symphony Band, it's a hybrid course. It meets on Tuesday and Thursday. But the difference here is when you look at attendance day, this student has been assigned Thursday. So while it meets on Tuesdays and Thursdays, this student only attends that class on Thursday. The student will sign in and on Tuesday for remote instruction. If we go one row down to Calculus 1, it's also a hybrid course. It meets on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but if you look at the attendance day, it says pending. So if you happen to encounter a pending status, this message is displayed for any new registration that may occur after a day has been assigned. So this simply means that you added the class and it hasn't been updated yet. This typically updates 2 to 3 times a day. So just check back in a few hours for that assigned day. On the last row, you see private lessons, clarinet. It's also a hybrid course, but if you look at the attendance day, you'll see that it says contact instructor. And this will display for any hybrid or face-to-face class that does not have an assigned meeting day. So you can click on the contact instructor link or on the instructor name to find out what attendance day you will be assigned. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Is Dr. Scott Phillips in the room?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah. Dr. Phillips, we'll
students.
pass it on to you.
Hi, my name is Scott Phillips, and I direct UAB Center for Teaching and Learning. We're one of the teams, including the Division of E-Learning and University IT, who have been working to make sure that the faculty are ready to teach you in this hybrid format. I'm joining you right now from Heritage Hall Room 102, which is one of the classrooms that's been outfitted with this technology. And I want to show you the technology briefly. So one of the things that will happen is if you are assigned to participate in the class on a Tuesday in person, but on Thursday you attend remotely, you would log into a Zoom meeting that your professor will set up. And then as the professor teaches in the class, you'll see that the camera will track that professor around the room, will move with the professor, and even make it so that if they write things on the board, you can see those things that they write on the board. They'll also have the ability to use a projection cam to show things like a textbook or other materials. And they may use the camera that's built in to their teaching station as well to deliver content. Your teachers are receiving shields like this one so that you'll be able to still see their faces and see their mouths as they teach you. And we've been working hard to make sure that the faculty are prepared to teach in this environment to make it so that you can hear and interact with them. There are also microphones installed in these classrooms. So, and I can hear the Zoom meeting through the speakers in this classroom. So that as the faculty member talks, as students have discussion, if you're attending remotely, you can hear what's happening. And if you make a comment on Zoom, all the students in the class can hear you as well. So we're glad to be able to show you this demonstration in many of the classrooms across campus. This kind of technology will make it so that hybrid learning is an effective experience for you.
Great, thank you. And then now we'll go to Dr. Faircloth.
Welcome. I am Mike Faircloth, the Medical and Lab Director for and a position within UAB Student Health Services. Thank you for this opportunity. I am honored to be one of the trusted voices for the health and safety of you, our UAB students, and I also understand the unique privilege to provide care for you as well. I am fortunate to have been asked to participate on and continue to serve several health and safety task forces and committees, both at the system and UAB campus levels. Since the beginning of this pandemic, it has been clear that the UA system and UAB institutional priority is the health and safety of its students, staff, faculty, and visitors. The mandates from UA System Chancellor Finance at St. John and UAB President Ray Watts to set the standard for health and safety, and from Dr. Selwyn Vickers, Senior Vice President of Medicine and Dean of the UAB School of Medicine, to develop a plan grounded in evidence-based science and medicine. have informed decision-making and recommendations at every step of this process. SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19 illness, is a new virus, but the public health principles that define how a community and individuals can most effectively respond to this challenge are not new. They are time-honored and grounded in that evidence base mentioned above. The resulting recommendations and plans align with these principles and apply to all students, faculty, and staff to facilitate a safe return to campus and include the things that you've already heard about. Required education about COVID-19 and the protocols implemented to respond to that. Initial and ongoing symptom and exposure monitoring through health check. Sentinel testing, which is a systematic random testing of a percentage of all on-campus staff and students on a weekly basis to define the background positivity asymptomatic rate and identify early trends, so allowing prompt actions as appropriate. For most students, this will be voluntary. For some students, those living in on-campus housing, participating in intramural club sports, or in a registered student organization that will meet in person and have 10 or more people will be required if you're chosen for sentinel testing. Also, mandatory entry testing, as mentioned earlier, prior to returning to campus, a negative test for all students who will be on campus for any period of time this fall. Some of the basic crucial mitigation measures that you've already heard about earlier include the social and physical distancing, mandatory masking, and as you heard, you'll be provided 2 reusable cloth masks, proper hand hygiene, and remaining off campus if you're sick, and identifying those who are ill, positive for COVID-19, or who have significant exposure and quickly isolating or quarantine those individuals to prevent spread of the virus. Again, these are sound public health principles, and when followed diligently, as is required and expected on the UAB campus, are effective measures to mitigate exposure to and potential illness from COVID-19. The pandemic is fluid, knowledge is rapidly evolving, and as the return to campus plans need refining and updating, this will be accomplished in a timely and effective manner. We are very fortunate to have many renowned experts in medicine and public health regarding COVID-19 right here on the UAB campus, and their expertise and guidance are critical to the decision-making process, ensuring that the UA system and UAB leadership are best prepared with meaningful and current data. There is no such thing as zero or no risk, but with these outlined plans and protocols and expert guidance, the UAB campus is actively working to provide the safest campus in America. I mentioned earlier mandatory entry testing. Many of you received an email earlier this week from GuideSafe regarding this process and next steps. If you have not seen that email, I would encourage you to please recheck your email, including your spam and junk mail. And if you still can't find the email, you should be able to create an account with GuideSafe using your UAB email address at https://healthy.verily, verily.com/. Student Health Services is open to serve all of our students, both on-site, in-person, and virtual video visits, and we will continue to be available throughout this challenging time. Thank you. I will turn it over now to your undergraduate student government president, Tyler Wong.
All right, thank you for the updates, Dr. Faircloth. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tyler Wong, and I currently serve as the student body president of the Undergraduate Student Government Association. We are nearing the week and a half mark from welcoming all of our returning students back to campus, and we're excited to welcome all of our incoming first-time students to the Blazer family. Given the turbulent nature of this pandemic, this has been a progressive learning curve for everyone. As a student first, I had many of the same concerns that were uniformly expressed across the nation by most college students. These concerning finances, academic success, personal health, and safety above all. Considering my personal values and aligning them to my role in USGA, I've seized the opportunity to forge ongoing relationships with many key personnel and influential administrators on our campus and provide this insight directly from the student body. USGA has had a busy summer in anticipation for the return of students in the fall. To provide you all with an update in regards to some of our ongoing projects, I'd like to address a few that have taken form since the inception of COVID. By actively listening to the needs of my fellow peers, the SGA COVID-19 Emergency Grant was launched in the spring as part of a multi-divisional collaboration between the Division of Student Affairs and countless other individuals and generous donors. By spearheading this initiative, USGA was able to contribute $30,000 to kickstart this grant. Throughout the remainder of the spring term and into the summer, this grant was expanded to aid over 1,000 students, supplying them with monetary funds of over $250,000 to support students in financial distress. Throughout the summer, I, along with 5 other student leaders, took charge over a health promotion campaign that surveyed over 600 student respondents to better understand their motivations and attitudes surrounding health promoting messages and their effectiveness in our reentry protocol. Based on the responses from the survey, collaborations have since been developed with a variety of campus groups and departments as we develop specific student-led campaigns regarding mask wearing and physical distancing that should launch in the upcoming weeks. Lastly, as part of our reentry guidelines, I have helped script and record a COVID-19 basic safety awareness course alongside the graduate student government president and other administrators that you will hopefully have completed by now. In that short module, our hope was to provide key updates and information pertaining to our reentry process on campus. Utilizing my communications team, we have been diligently monitoring student concerns and remain in consistent daily engagement through popular social media platforms such as Instagram and Facebook, revamping our website, engaging opinions through polls and other media to be actively engaged and as accessible as possible. As we look ahead to the following weeks, I will continue to educate myself and inform the student body about any new updates that I receive. Representing the Undergraduate Student Government Association at UAB, I am honored to serve as a voice for the undergraduate student body, and I hope to continue to advocate for students' well-being and safety this upcoming year. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me or any other members on my team in USGA if you have questions, concerns, or if you'd just like to connect to learn more about what we do on campus. I look forward to a great year together. Thank you and go Blazers. And now I'll hand it over to Jasmine Benjamin, the Graduate Student Government President.
Thanks, Tyler. As you said, my name is Jasmine. I am the Graduate Student Government President for the 2020-2021 academic year. As Tyler suggested, GSG and USGA have been working really hard, along with everyone else on this panel and some people who aren't here today, to make sure that the return to campus for the fall semester is as safe, but also as enjoyable as possible. Please understand that everything won't be perfect. There are a lot of holes that we still need to fill, and this has been a really steep learning curve for everyone. So I encourage everyone to exercise patience and compassion, but to also hold yourself responsible for adhering to safety guidelines and sanitary guidelines. Hold yourself and hold others accountable as well. We're all a big team. And so in order to combat this virus as best we can and keep the campus safe and keep the campus open for the fall semester, we all have to work together. I'm really excited, honestly, to be a leader at this point in time. It's been a real honor to work with a lot of our medical professionals and higher administration to kind of see behind the scenes how the university is working to keep things safe and make things as easy to navigate as possible. As always, GSG is here to help our graduate students. I know that a lot of our graduate and professional students never really took a break or left campus. So for those of you who have kind of been here and stuck it out the whole summer, keep up the great work. For those of you who are just returning, we're excited to see you. I work on the medical side of campus, and so I will say that the western side of campus by the Hill Center has been a little bare, so it'll be nice to see a couple more people on that side of campus. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone from a distance, of course, and I hope that everyone gets their questions answered today. As always, if you need anything, please feel free to reach out to myself or anyone else on the GSG Executive Committee. And if you'd like to get involved with GSG, please check out our website at uab.edu/GSG. Thanks.
Thank you, Jasmine. All right, we're going to open it up to Q&A. Many of you have already pre-submitted your questions, and so we're going to start with those questions first, and then we'll go over to the live Q&A as well. Even though it's the beginning of the semester, a lot of students are thinking about graduation. So one of the questions, or a couple of questions, relate to graduation this fall. So Dr. Benoit, people are wanting to know, is it going to be online or is it going to be on ground?
So we thought about that very carefully. And again, because health and safety is our most important concern, we made the decision that the commencement for fall will be a virtual commencement. And we know that it's not the same. Although I think given that we now will have done it 3 times, we're actually finding ways to make it a very enjoyable experience for those of you who want to participate. As we've done in the past, if at some later date when it is safe for us to do it on an in-person basis, you're welcome to come to one of those later commencements when the situation merits being able to be there in person. But large groups are not advisable at this point in time, and so we've made the choice not to have a in-person ceremony.
To follow up with that on large groups, could you give some guidance on numbers and how people are allowed to gather? Is it more than 10, less than 10? And what are some of the guidance for shared spaces?
So I think I'm going to hand that over to Dr. Jones, who I know has been working on guidance around events, who might be able to share some information about that, and also the requirements for having student organization kinds of events.
Sure. And in fact, thank you, Dr. Benoit. My name is John Jones. I serve as the Vice President of Student Affairs. And at this time, we're looking at allowing students to have events in settings where there's at least 10, no more than 10, excuse me, in the inside and no more than 20 on the outside. Last week, we received some information from our system office, University of Alabama System Office, and we're in the process of looking at that information and engaging and implementing, as well as interpreting what those requirements are. There will be an update to what I just said regarding 10 students inside or 10 individuals inside and 20 outside. So more information about that is to come.
To follow up on student experience, several students have asked about how the dining hall would work. Is there a limited capacity? And then also questions about the rec center. Those seem to be quite popular. So Dr. Jones or someone on your team? Sure,
I'm gonna ask Mark Booker to respond on behalf of dining. And I'm gonna ask Rebecca Kennedy to respond on behalf of Universal Recreation.
Thanks, Dr. Jones. All of our dining options will be grab and go. So there will be very limited seating in areas that students are used to seeing seating, such as the Hill Student Center and the dining commons. But we will have served food by our dining staff. There won't be any self-service, and you just take your container and can enjoy a meal on the green or back in your residence hall or before your next class.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes, and we are very excited that we will be able to open the recreation facility. So it will open on the 17th. So before our folks come back, most of our residential students will begin moving in on the 19th. So we will be up and running. We will not be able to have every single thing open based on all of the regulations that we're sort of living within, but we will have a socially distanced experience there that should be really great.
Great, thank you. And to go back to residence life, several students have asked about how move-in is going to work. So I'll pass it back over to you, Mark.
Thanks. Good question. You're going to continue to get some updates on move-in, but the simple answer is everyone has picked a time. You've picked your own time. So you will arrive during your allotted time to move in. Each resident will show your passport in the lobby to gain access to your room and to get your masks and keys and a small amount of paperwork. You will have 1 hour to unload your car. And so that's not 1 hour to do everything you need to do. It's just 1 hour to unload your car. We've run some test unloading in anticipation of this, and knowing that a lot of people are concerned that an hour is not enough. And so far, our average on 11 runs is 26 minutes. to unload a car and put the gear in a cart and take it into the lobby. So we have done some practicing, and we think an hour is sufficient. Some key things there is please pack lightly, as we've been advising students in our emails. Not knowing what's going to happen as the semester begins, it's essential that we have an efficient move-in process. And as you can imagine, with 2,700 residents on campus, if each resident brings one helper, that's 5,400 people in and around the residence halls over 5 days. So it will be congested. We're going to have to be very careful. That's part of the reason there's 1 hour to unload cars, to minimize coming and going and passing one another. Please stick to our rules about 2 on an elevator at a time, maintaining the 6 feet of social distancing, maintaining your face masks or face coverings. Use the stairs when practical, because our elevators will not always be available if there are only 2 people on an elevator at a time. So that's just a very brief overview for this session, this town hall. We will be sending out additional information very soon, and please look for that in your email.
And one last follow-up on residential life. If somebody needs a study partner, what's the policy on visiting somebody in the dorm?
So again, visiting within each residence hall is permitted, provided that there are not more than 4 or 5 people in a room at one time. And so studying is allowed. We will not be able to allow students from other residence halls to visit one another or outside visitors in the residence halls. And again, please keep in mind, all of that is for the safety and well-being of all of the students on campus. And it's important that we all follow those guidelines in order to keep our community safe.
Thank you. And then for Dr. Jones's area, we have a few questions regarding work. Student jobs, are there available student jobs for freshmen this semester? And will work study still go on during this time?
Oh, absolutely. If you look within student affairs, there are several departments that hire a large number of students. To start with, the Hill Student Center, campus recreation, dining, to say the least. And certainly there's other academic departments throughout the university that also hire student employees. So we look forward to work along the side of student employees. One location where you can look to find out more information about jobs is Handshake. And Handshake is a technology platform within career services. So easily just do a quick search, UAB Career Services, and then also search on Handshake, and you will see that technology platform in which you can find available jobs.
Thank you. Some questions came in previously, and I see that it's a hot topic in the Q&A, but Dr. Kennedy, hoping you might just respond to some of the testing questions that are coming in. Students are, particularly out-of-state students said that the COVID test wasn't sent to them, and so do they need to be tested on their own is one, if you'd like to.
Yeah, so if for some reason there was some kind of glitch and you did not receive the email, we did send out an email to, I want to say about 1,800 out-of-state students. I know that some folks have not opened those. We've looked and seen that there's quite a few students that just, for whatever reason, don't realize it's there. So please check your spam, please check your email, all of those kind of good things. But at this point, for the out-of-state students, what we'd like to do is to try and work with you to see if we can get you into one of our testings that we have here in our 14 locations in Alabama. If you have questions about that, you can get in touch with Student Outreach. Just email them at studentoutreach. It's at uab.edu. If you are a registered student and you are in state, then you can go ahead and register in the platform. So you would do that by, let me see if I can see my notes here. Any student should be able to create an account with their UAB email at that healthy.verily.com. I know Dr. Faircloth indicated that earlier, and then I answered it in one of the questions in the Q&A.
Thank you.
Can I ask, Rebecca, with the email, when it comes to students, will it come from Verily or will it come from UAB? What should they be looking for?
Yeah, there's a variety of things that it is coming from. I think Meredith is on the call. She's probably got the latest update in terms of the list of things that folks should be looking for that email from.
Yes, and there may be some others that may be able to speak to this as well, but Verily is going to be one specifically for our out-of-state students, or Everly Well is also, it comes through, potentially would have been what they would have received in their email at this point. Those are the key things for our out-of-state students specifically to look for. For our in-state students, it was Guide Safe.
So if you're looking in your junk mail, those are the things to look for to make sure that you see that email.
Great, thank you. We have several questions related to kind of tuition and expenses. Like if a student gets COVID and ends up missing a significant portion of class time, will they be able to make it up and not be charged for an additional class if they have to make it up? So I'll hand it over to Dr. Benoit.
So that's not an easy question to answer because it depends on a lot of factors. When in the semester it occurs, what assignments are left to be done before the end of the term. If there is a significant portion of the class that is not able to be completed, then that's probably a time to consider our normal withdrawal policies and to decide to take the class at another point in time.
And then questions regarding parking permit. If all their if an individual's classes are switched to remote, can they get a refund or cancel their parking permit? So I know Andre Davis is on the line.
Thank you, Rosie. Yes, students will be allowed to return their permits for a full refund if returned before August 31st. We've extended that date. The deadline previously was August 28th, but just today we extended that deadline to August 31st. So all permits can be refunded for a full refund by August 31st.
And a student asked, if all my classes have been moved online, will I still be charged for Blazer bucks? I'm not sure who the best person to answer that question.
Sure, I can take that. So here's the bad news. There will not be a refund, but here's the good news. We will waive that fee from your account. So in other words, you will not be responsible for paying that fee.
Thank you. All right, so going over to the Q&A questions that have been coming in. One student asked, I will have some classes that are in person and some that are remote. There's about a 15-minute difference between my in-class courses and remote. After my remote course, I will have another in-person class. So they're just asking, what do they need to do between those classes? And so I know Dr. McMahon, you've been working on trying to situate.
I'm happy to address that. We've been thinking hard about student schedules, and that particular example that was raised, we've thought about. So we will have spaces set up on our campus, and examples are Bartow Arena and the School of Education, where students can go in between their face-to-face in-person classes to listen in on a remote lecture. So the idea will be that you will attend your in-person class, and then you can move across campus and enter a room in the School of Education and find a space there and get on your computer and listen to your course remotely if it's synchronous. If it's not synchronous, then you can listen to it some other time. But there is a space for you to enjoy studying or maybe have lunch, and then you can return to your next face-to-face class.
So a student asked, if you were in a hybrid class, do you have to go in on the assigned days, or can you stay at home and take the class online? Dr. Benoit?
So hybrid classes have been designed on purpose to have an in-person element, and the faculty member has made the judgment that that course needs that in-person element in order to be successful. So for example, you would be very difficult for you to be able to do any kind of lab work that was not actually in person. You need to manipulate particular objects. And so The answer is that if you've taken a course hybrid, that's a hybrid course and there's an expectation. The other thing I would say is as you take each one of those courses, you'll get a syllabus the first day, and you should look at the attendance policy on the syllabus so that you can see whether or not it's required for you to be in class at a particular point in time or if there's not an attendance policy. So check that out as well.
Thank you. And this might be for Mark Booker. If some students are doing full online and remote classes, will they still be required to pay the campus dining fee?
If students are doing full online or remote classes, will they be able to pay? Do they still have to pay the dining fee?
Yes.
Well, we're investigating that piece simply because we've had a high number of requests. And part of the reason for the fee is associated with the cost of running the dining and doing all of the, making it available for all the different variations and the different venues and going on, making adjustments, extra hours if we have to do things like that. So if the student is completely on remote or not on campus, we are exploring the opportunity of waiving that fee for the fall semester for that one semester. I did want to clarify something else that I mentioned earlier. Some of my parent friends that are on our town hall tonight have shared with me. I want to clarify the element of 1 hour to unload your car. But once your stuff is in your room, you will have as long as it takes to set your room up and make your space comfortable. So thanks to my friends that are watching that asked me to clarify that. So just wanted to do that.
Thank you. This is a question from a parent pre-submitted. I'm a UAB parent from the West Coast. During the academic year, if students feel unwell on campus in their dorm room, how do they get medical or general assistance? Will they be quarantined? How do they get meals if they're isolated in their room? I'm not sure who needs to answer, maybe Mark and even Dr. Benoit.
You froze on my end just a minute, Rosie. Could you just briefly repeat the housing piece of that question?
Yeah, if a student gets sick, a parent is asking who takes care of them, who's going to feed them and make sure they get the things they need.
So I actually think Dr. Faircloth maybe will want to start that answer, and then we can hand off to Mark.
Yeah, so any student, residential or otherwise, has access to student health services, and certainly if they need care, we have that available both in person, and if they're in their room and don't want to leave, they'll be able to do it virtually through their computer. If they need more than that in emergency care, we have fortunately robust healthcare system around us, but less than that, certainly UAB student health is there for that piece. If it comes to a question of isolation or quarantine, we have places on campus for the students who live on campus to be isolated, and we're working on spaces for quarantine. And I'll let Mark talk about the services that'll be provided to those students if they are quarantined or isolated on campus.
If the students on campus are in isolation, they will have meals delivered once a day to the residence hall, and they will be dropped on their hall for pickup. And then they will receive a lunch, a dinner, and breakfast the following morning. Student health will be outreaching to those students on a regular basis to check on them and make sure that they're okay. Knowing that we have a limited number of spaces and that we want folks to recover and take care of themselves in the most comfortable space available, one option for all students who live on campus will be to isolate or quarantine at home. So if a student is ill or does not want to move to the isolation hall on campus, the ability to isolate or quarantine at home will be available for those students. But if they are on campus and in our isolation hall, the meals will be delivered, We will also assist. They will have linens available for them in their rooms, in the residence halls. They will be asked to stay in those residence hall rooms and keep themselves isolated. No visitation will be allowed. And again, most of the contact with each resident in isolation will be virtual, both from student health and or residence life. So that's our current plan for the isolation hall and how we will support them and get food to them while they're sick.
Thank you. Several questions have asked about Stern Library, how it's going to operate, and are students allowed to study? So Dr. Gonnerman?
Yes, so the libraries will be open. We will open on the 17th of August on limited hours and then go to fuller hours on August 24th. We are obviously adjusting the space to redistribute the furniture so that each piece is 6 feet away from one another. So obviously this will impact the capacity for seating students. But we will allow for whatever number of seats are available to be used for studying. What we are going to appeal to with students is asking them to limit their stay in the libraries to 2 hours so that we can rotate through more users and allow others to use the spaces as well. We are also going to continue some additional services that will hopefully limit the need for the library use, such as curbside pickup and requesting materials through the catalog for the books to be delivered at service desks. So we are really trying to maximize in any possible way the studying capacity for our users.
Thank you. Several students are asking if they can switch their assigned attendance day if it doesn't fit with their schedule. So Dr. McMahon or Dr. Benoit?
Several students have asked that question. So part of the reason that you're assigned on a particular day is because we were intending to make your face-to-face classes and your hybrid classes on a couple of days to limit your movement around campus. So if it's important for you to switch your day, you can always reach out to your instructor for that, but we really want to limit that. The days that you are assigned are the days that we intend for you to be in class.
Thank you. A couple of questions have come in about DSS accommodations for remote learning. So Allison Solomon, pass it over to you. If you want to just explain maybe what the process is, and a student is asking, are we able to take a required class that is only offered in person? How do they get DSS accommodations?
Sure. So my name is Allison Solomon. I serve as the Director of Disability Support Services as well as ADA Compliance Officer for students here at UAB. And so on our website, uab.edu/DSS, if you go to our website, you'll be able to see clearly where students can, one, of course, register for disability support services for students that are needing the traditional services for students that have disabilities. But what we also have on that website, right next to it, it actually says request COVID temporary adjustments. And so if a student qualifies for an adjustment, essentially accommodations under based on COVID, students will follow that process and apply on our website there. And we are working with students that either, if a student tests positive for COVID and is not able to attend class, if a student is considered higher risk according to CDC guidelines, or if they live with or caring for an individual who is considered higher risk. We're here to be able to coordinate accommodations, which include remote learning for students. And so what I would recommend is if a student is needing any accommodations because of those categories, to please reach out to DSS. Even if you're not sure if we're what you need, we're happy to talk to you and make sure that we get you the assistance that's needed. And if necessary, the adjustments that are needed for your course.
Thank you. A student asked, if you're a freshman and find all your classes are either online or remote, are you still required to live on campus? So maybe Dr. Barnes or?
Mark, could you respond to that, please?
Sure, I'll go ahead. We have allowed a significant number of freshmen whose circumstances are changed this year because of COVID to get out of the housing live-on requirement. And so if you do find yourself in a circumstance where all of your classes are virtual or remote, you can certainly request to be released from that obligation. And we will review that even at this date and make that determination. I do want to clarify one other piece going back to the care and the isolation and quarantine. One of the other items that we're going to be sending out in our information is to encourage all of our residents to prepare and pack what we're calling a go bag, so that if you do test positive during the semester, we'd like to quickly move the resident to the isolation hall or potentially to return home. And so if you have a limited amount of time, it would be helpful if you already had a bag packed with some clothes and a thermometer and some self-care items. We have a list that you can refer to in our material. So that was one other element that I wanted to be sure and share with you tonight about your self-care, as well as the possibility of moving into the isolation hall. So thanks for giving me the chance to clarify.
Several students are asking, how will these policies like masking and social distancing be enforced on our campus? So Dr. Benoit?
I actually think that Dr. Jones should take that one. He's been working very hard, he and Mary Wallace, about, especially for students, what the policy will be around enforcement. Dr. Jones?
Sure, thank you, Dr. Benoit. I'm gonna pass that to Mary Wallace. Dr. Wallace, could you respond, please?
1-to-1.
Good evening. As Dr. Watts said, we're really serious about UAB being a safe campus to return to. And in order to do that, we've set up lots of safety measures, but they're only as good as human interaction. And we are asking you to do some things that are not everyday things that we're used to. Wearing a mask, physically distancing. We're asking you to take an entry test, take your educational module, and to listen to the adhere to what Student Health Center is asking you to do. There are several things that we're wanting you to do before you even enter campus. So those things are like your entry testing, your health checker, and your educational module. If you don't do that by the time you try to move into the residence hall, you'll have to reschedule your appointment to move into the residence hall. If you don't do that before school starts, we will take what we call interim actions for the health and safety of our campus, and you won't be allowed to go into class, in-person class. At the same time, you'll also go through the conduct process. So that will be a normal process for us, where you will go and meet with student conduct. Mask wearing and physical distancing are going to be new to all of us, and we're going to have to do things together and be responsible. Our Blazer Way, which is our university creed, says that we hold ourselves accountable to this unique community with integrity and honor. And that is part of what we're asking you to do, is to hold yourself accountable and to also hold one another accountable. If you're asked to wear a mask and you're on campus and you don't have a mask and you refuse, that will be seen as failure to comply. And once again, we will refer that to the student conduct process. So we're asking everybody, I think you heard from Tyler and Jasmine, that it's going to take all of us to be responsible and to do the things that will help keep our campus safe and keep your learning experience intact. And we all want that. So we're asking you to comply and to help us all be safe.
Thank you. I would encourage everybody to visit uab.edu/UABUnited. It's a new website that has all of your entry information, and there's a section solely for students. So please check that out. We have lots of questions that came in that we were unable to answer, but our communications team will work to get these questions answered. And so be on the lookout for your next UAB green mail. Open your email and we will follow up with the questions that went unanswered. With that, I'd like to just hand it off to Dr. Benoit and Dr. Watts for closing statements. Dr. Benoit?
So there were a couple of things that I wanted to make sure that I went over before we are finished tonight. One is that when you pick up your mask, you'll need to bring your one card, and you can only pick up your mask for yourself, not for others. So that's an important thing to remember when you're ready to do that. The other is that we've talked a lot about the health check, and that you're going to be doing the health check daily that monitors your symptoms. And at the bottom of the health check, there's a passport button, and you click on that and it gives you a clearance for the day. And here's mine for today. I'm cleared for today. And what happens then is that you will be asked to show that in your classes. You'll be asked to show that at the rec center, at the library, whenever your events are meeting, co-curricular activities. So this should become a normal part of your routine because it allows us to see that you do not currently have symptoms and that you've not had close contact exposure. So an important piece of this is again, protecting health and safety of our students. Last thing I want to say, we know the classrooms are going to be different. I am so glad that Dr. Phillips illustrated what the classroom looks like. I'll also say that we're going to be having student workshops. And if you look at the e-learning website, you'll see when those are scheduled. If you want more experience, you want more information about what classes are going to look like, make sure you enroll in one of those student workshops and get some additional information. One of the things I think you see here today is that we have tried to think of many different aspects. The world is a different place right now, but we are planning so hard. We want you back. We want to have a great semester with you. We're so looking forward to you coming. Not very long. It's only going to be a few more days now. So let's get together. Let's pull together as Blazers and make sure we have a very healthy and safe semester together.
Dr. Watts? Let's see. You're muted, Dr. Watts.
Thank you. I hope, as you can tell, we've been planning diligently, and we're very excited about welcoming you to campus for this fall semester. We want you to have a great experience. It's going to be different because of this pandemic, but we're going to do everything we can to keep you safe and healthy and help you have a great educational and campus experience. So we look forward to seeing you soon in not too many days. Stay well.
Thank you.
Go Blazers.